If you guys have watched my previous videos, you'll know that I've taken a gap year before I start medical school this fall. So during the time that I've not been in school, I've had the opportunity to really build a passion again for reading and have read some amazing books during my time off of school. And in this video, I'm going to share with you guys the top 3 books that I recommend you read, as well as, if you stick to the end, a bonus book that I absolutely love and is a must read for all. So sit back and relax as we embark on the journey of MD in the making. What's up, YouTube? Hope you're having a great day. For those of you that are new here, my name is Jason and I'm an incoming first-year medical student at George Washington School of Medicine. In this video, I'm going to share my top 3 favorite books that I read while I had my time off during my gap year and the important takeaways that we're going to go through. 3 books that I absolutely have loved during this time are these 3 listed here. We have Nudge, Never Split the Difference, and Happiness Hypothesis. And we're going to go through them one by one and talk about the important takeaways that I got from all these books. The first book is Nudge, Improving Decisions About Health, Wealth, and Happiness. Written by University of Chicago economist Richard Thaler and Harvard Law School professor Sunstein. They delve into the unconscious decisions that we make every single day based on the design of our environment and what is going on around us. So what makes this book different from all the other decision-making books? Well, it focuses more so on the environment that you surround yourself with, not improving inner strength, willpower, and so on. It's mostly on the environment and all the little cues that we learn from it. So let's delve into this book further. So Nudge is a certain cue that pushes you in a direction without necessarily forcing you to do so. So Lesson 1 from this book. While we may have nudges all around us pushing us in one direction or another, make sure to leave all your options open. So the example that they give in this book is, let's say that you're at home and you get a phone call from a friend. The friend tells you, we're going out, we're gonna go have a good time. At first you're hesitant, you don't really wanna go. But then they come over, they make you get dressed, and then you go out and have an amazing time. That's a nudge in action. A nudge is a very small action or change in an environment, which makes it easier for you to make a decision. Another easy example that they use in the book, think about when you leave a grocery store. As you're checking out, what do they put next to you? Candy. But if they were to put, let's say, fruits, people would be more often to buy the fruits on their way checking out compared to all the candy bars that they have at the cash register. Another example, you go to McDonald's and you place your order and they ask at the end, do you want fries with that? Again, another nudge, not necessarily in the right direction, unless you really want fries. So during our day, we're constantly being pushed and nudged in certain directions, whether it be good or bad, and it's up to us to help realize we're surrounded by it. It's our environment. So if we change our environment, we will be in control of the decisions that we make going forward. For example, let's say you put a restriction on certain websites while you want to study. So that way you're not distracted and you don't have access. That's another nudge in the right direction. Lesson number 2, a default is a very powerful nudge. You have to actively object to it for it not to work. So sometimes it's possible to even create those situations, you nudge in the right direction to make your life easier. So take, for example, you're writing up an email on Gmail. You start writing out the email and in it you state, please find attached. But you forget to add the attached and you're about to hit send. A pop-up will show up saying, did you attach what you wanted to? That's a nudge to make sure that you remember and you properly place the attachment as you had said in the email. So that's a very specific circumstance and situation in which a nudge in the environment helps you the right way. The big thing is that default nudges are set up in a way that if you do nothing, you'll still do the right thing by sticking to the standard. So another great example, you're working at a big company and they automatically enroll you into a retirement plan. In this case, because it's automatic, you don't have to make the decision. The only decision that you'd be making is to pull out, which isn't what you should be doing long term. So the company automatically puts you in. That's another nudge in the right direction without you even having to think about it. It's automatic. So how can this be used against you? The greatest example is all the memberships that you're a part of. Whether it's gym, Hulu, Netflix, Spotify, and any other subscription service, you have to actively cancel it or else they'll re-enroll you every single month. So lesson number 3, and the big takeaway from this book, is that states and larger governments can also use these environmental nudges to help shape the society around you. So in a really basic sense, if the majority of the members in a society are making good decisions, then the welfare of the state grows. But if the majority of the people are making bad decisions, it declines. So let's take an example in the United States. According to the author, 75% of Americans are either overweight or obese. So imagine if that 75% were to choose to eat healthy. That would mean that obesity and all the adverse health outcomes that come from being obese would be diminished. Therefore, the country would save so much money on treatments, on surgical costs, health insurance, and etc. It would be the great way for everyone to win in this situation. Another great example is smoking. Same kind of logic applies there. So another great example that the authors use is the $1 a Day program gives $1 every day to teenage mothers who don't get pregnant again. Now you may be asking, why would the government want to pay $1 for them to not get pregnant? Well, very simple. $365 in which the government is going to pay these individual teenagers is going to be a lot less than it would be to take care of a single teenage mother. So nudges and our overall environment shape us in the decisions we make, whether that be good or bad. So be on the lookout for what is pushing you one way or the other. Is it McDonald's? Is it what's placed at the cash register? The subscription services that you're a part of? Be on the lookout for how your environment shapes you. The next absolute must read to get ahead in life. Written by former international FBI negotiator Chris Voss, we delve into how did he deal with negotiating with terrorists, bank robbers, and other criminals who had taken a hostage. While you might not be finding yourself in the exact same situation that he was in, these negotiation tactics are useful in everyday life. So let's delve in to cover some important takeaways that I got from reading this book. Takeaway number 1. You need to build trust to gain information. Negotiating doesn't rely on your emotional side, it relies on the intellect. You have to build a rapport, or in essence, build a line of communication with yourself and whoever you're negotiating with. You need to build up that trust so that way the negotiation can start. So how do you build up a rapport with someone who you're trying to negotiate with? You do this by actively listening to the other person and using the mirroring technique. Mirroring technique is when you use an inquisitive tone in response to someone else's comment. So let's give an example. Oh my God, my manager just quit. Oh, your manager just quit? Yeah, it was the weirdest thing. He did this, this, and this. By mirroring back what the person said, we're able to build that connection with the other individual. So that's the first step. Build that rapport to gain more information. Takeaway number 2, watch your tone of voice during these negotiations. Most times you want to be in a more playful, joyous tone of voice and attitude, making sure that you're smiling and showing that you're a happy and positive person that is going to be fun to negotiate with. But the second you can feel that other person becoming nervous or uncertain of the situation, it's best to talk in a more calm and reassuring tone of voice to, again, keep that rapport and keep that trust growing. Takeaway number 3, time to put your emotions to use. So like I said before, you're building up that rapport, you're building up that connection with the other person. The best way to build up that connection is to feed off of the emotion that they're giving off and match it and be as respectful as you can be. So the author is making sure not to say, don't agree with everything the other person is saying. That's not the point. The point is understanding the other person's perspective. And once we can, in essence, put ourselves in the other person's shoes, that helps build and strengthen that line of communication. So how does Voss recommend going about doing this? He says to go through the technique called labeling. That's the process of acknowledging the other person's position and feelings. That way they become calmer and more rational. It's easier to discuss with someone who's rational than someone who has a lot of emotions being built and isn't sure how to properly talk and vent it out. So again, how do you match their emotions? Using that mirroring technique to better understand what they're going through and labeling the emotions that they're experiencing in this moment so you can best discuss it. So a good way is using our previous example. One individual just had their manager quit. So in response, we come back and say, I understand that you feel worried about the situation, that you feel it's out of your control. And by building up that emotional connection, that's how you can best negotiate. Takeaway number 4. And most important, I think, don't rush, don't compromise, don't accept demands. You always want to let the other person offer first. If you're in a hurry, you could settle for less. Don't ever really feel rushed because very few deadlines are true and hard, actual deadlines. Everything can be negotiated. So take your time to understand where the other person is coming from so that way you know where to meet them and you can negotiate for a better opportunity, better salary, or better life experience overall. So the best way to summarize this book is building up the emotional intelligence without sacrificing your deal-making power. Book number 3, The Happiness Hypothesis, written by Jonathan Haidt, a social psychologist and professor of ethical leadership at NYU Stern School of Business. Haidt goes through and tries to understand what is happiness. Some of us define it as puppies frolicking in a bed of sunflowers. I don't know. It's how do you put it into words?
That you
So Haidt puts everything into context from the early psychologists through modern day to get an overall understanding of what happiness is. So to set the context for his book, he uses a common analogy of the elephant and the rider. He states that the elephant is our emotional side and the rider is our rational side. So the rider is the one who's trying to control this big, massive elephant. So ourselves as the rational type person, we try to control the elephant because our emotions can kind of get the best of us. But like I just said, emotions get the best of us. How can a little rider actually move about a 6-ton massive elephant? So that's what Haidt gets into his book here. So takeaway number 1, controlling the elephant. So our conscious thoughts don't always control our entire body. So, take a look at your heart, for example. Heart isn't controlled by our thoughts. We can't think for it to beat faster. It's controlled autonomously without our conscious control. The elephant is more so our primal brain. It reacts very quickly and harshly to some scary and uncertain things. We, as the rider, are trying to control the emotional side of ourselves. Haidt even points in that genetics can even play a role in this. Some of our own riders up in here have to work a little bit harder at controlling the elephant compared to others. Takeaway number 3, lifting the blinders on both the elephant and the rider. We're hardwired in our own ways that we don't see our flaws, but we very easily and quickly see the flaws of others. The example that Haidt points out, when you're working with a colleague and you see them making a mistake, you think to yourself, well, duh, that's a mistake. How could they be doing that? But they could just be as easily thinking the same about you. We have our blinders on and it's very easy to point out others' flaws and very difficult to point out our own. So what happens when someone points out our flaws? Our elephant takes full reign. Our elephant, the emotional side, is very upset. For the most part, we can't take this criticism well, and it becomes an emotional disaster. So, as Haidt points out in his book, when we lift our own blinders and we admit our flaws, especially to someone else, we're able to build that stronger connection. And by doing so, we're able to journey towards happiness. Takeaway number 4, all you need is love. Haidt even says the Beatles love. Haidt points out in modern society, we often substitute our need for a romantic love for the passionate, fast, burning love. That feeling of love fades fast and is gone ever too quickly. But when that passionate love ends, that's when you have to build the compassionate love. So this type of love is the love similar to the love that we have for our parents. It takes time for it to grow. Haidt points out that there are other ways that love can lead to happiness. For example, working a job not because it pays the bills, but because you surround yourself with people that love and support you. And in essence, this ties up Haidt's full point. It's our unselfish side, our side that is truly altruistic. That's how we find the meaning of life. So as individuals, we sometimes come into conflict with helping ourselves first versus helping others. But when we're able to align those and properly balance them, that's how we ensure the pure and true happiness. This is a must. Really understand how emotions run through our lives and how we're best able to understand everything that goes on in life, and to not get lost in the weeds of where do we find ourselves and how do I find true happiness. And for those of you that stuck to the end, the last book that I highly recommend, an amazingly well-written book that's really opened my eyes to a specialty that I really want to pursue in medicine, and that is The Emperor of All Maladies, written by Dr. Siddhartha Mukherjee. A beautifully written book on the history of cancer. While I can't say that there are big, vast, amazing takeaways from this novel, what I can say is that Mukherjee goes into and explains of how our knowledge and treatment of cancer has evolved over time. During the time of the ancient Egyptians, they thought it was a black bile within us that was causing this cancer. Then into the 1700s, we thought that bloodletting would be able to get rid of cancer. Then at the turn of the 20th century, we saw people going into radical surgeries to remove cancers. But cancer really only became prevalent since the 20th century. As people are starting to live longer, these cancers now have the opportunity to really grow and metastasize into the problems that they are today. It's our improvement in the basic sciences of washing your hands and keeping everything sanitized that has allowed for us to live longer and therefore allowed cancer to become more prevalent. This book goes into how politics got involved and how we have these amazing opportunities, whether it be the Lymphoma and Leukemia Society, you have the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, you have so many different things to make the average person more aware of cancer. The more you see it, the more likely you're going to want to help fight it and get rid of it, whether that be through donations, volunteering, or anything in between. But it was only recently that science has made the jump into understanding genetics and realizing that cancer starts in our genome. Cancer arises from the mutation in cells caused by mutations in our genes. So as ominous as that seems, there is a future in science that is targeting those, and hopefully in our generation we'll see an end to cancer because of a massive advancement in technology. So I hope that I will be on the cutting edge of cancer treatment and finally be a part of the generation that cures cancer. All 4 of these books can be found in the link in the description below. Let me know if you guys like this type of video. It's something not necessarily related to medicine, but I think is an important thing to talk about. The more we read, the more we know, and the more we know, the more we can help others around us. So I hope you guys like this type of video. Leave a comment down below if you want to see more stuff like this. As always, please be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one as we embark on the journey of MD in the making.